Welcome back to part 3 on animating navigation using jQuery and CSS transitions. In part 2, we added all the necessary CSS for the nav's transition state, which in this instance is going to be referenced as small, because as we can see here in the design, this is what's going to be considered large, and this will be considered small. All right, we got a little delay there. All right, large and small. So as of right now, we've kind of defined the small. So now we need to, what I want to do is, we know what the properties are for the small. Let's move those properties into the small class here. Okay, so in the small class, we know that the nav is going to have this background color, right? So I'm going to kind of copy that and put it here. You know that the nav is going to have this background color. The padding is going to be defined this way, and there's the background color. And we know that, so based on this, we know that the UL is also going to have its state changed, background color, as well as the anchor tags. So let's go back here, and for the UL, I'm going to go up here, copy this. We'll get rid of the UL nav. We'll get rid of flow right because flow right will be consistent across the board. And for this, when it is small, we remove the color. So that's exactly what we're looking to achieve. And then the only other thing would be, say, the LI anchor tags, and we want to have the color to be white. Okay, so that's great. So that's the small class. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to comment this out, and let's make some changes to the large class. So for the large class, we know that the nav is not going to have any color, background color. So let's give it a background color and an opacity of 0. Opacity of 0. So we remove the color. We also know that the nav is going to have some sort of padding top and bottom, primarily top, to push it down, and then say I think 30 pixels right and left. Yep, so that looks pretty good. That kind of looks like this design, right? Yeah, looks like the padding top and bottom. We see that we need to add color to the UL as well as the anchor tags. So now that we know that this is the state of the nav as it is as the large, let's cut that out, and let's put that into the large section. So now that we know that it's there, let's also add a background color to the UL. So we'll give it a background of 255 with an opacity of 0.2. All right, that's the color that we want. So I'm going to kind of copy this as well, paste that here. Just get rid of float, since float is a property that's on all of them. So I will remove the color here, the background color to this. Let's get this out of the way. The only other thing is the anchor tag color. So I'm going to make this black. And if we make that black, we clearly see that it's black. So I'm going to kind of take that out of there and go down here and add an LI here and give it a color of black. So now it has a color of black. So we have these two states, right? We have this large and we have this small. Now, in order for large to really take effect, we need to kind of define it here also. So I'm going to add large here, and nav large, add it here as well. All right, so not large or large, okay? So now that I have them added here, I'm going to also do the same thing with the small. So we have to be very specific about these classes. So this is going to be nav small, nav small, and we're going to precede this guy with nav small, small. Okay, so we want to kind of test this out. We have these classes. Now let's test this out and make sure that the classes actually work when they're assigned. So I'm going to go into Developer Tools. I'm going to examine the nav, and here's the nav, and I'm going to go in and add the large class. And if we do, we can see that it transitions out, and it has the properties that we want. I'm going to go in here and add the small class. And there we go. We're back. Now you see that it jumped between transitioning those states. There is no transition. It's just here or there. So in order to gracefully make that transition, I'm going to go up here into the animations section and define animations for nav, which we know that's what's being changed, and the anchor tag. That's also the other element that's being changed. We're going to add transition. We're going to give it all properties are going to be transition. We're going to give it 1 second. And we are going to do an ease in and out effect. All right, cool. So now that we have that, let's go back here and actually see if this design works. So I'm going to go back to ClearFix, and I'm going to do large. So it transitions nicely. I like that. Okay. And then for here, we're going to do small, and it transitions it back. The only other thing we need to change also is we need to fix the header, because as we scroll, header moves with it. So we're going to need to kind of fix the header. That's also going to be added to the smaller class. Okay, so I'm just going to do it up here. And for the nav, right? So for the nav itself, let's go back here. I'm going to add the header nav, and we're going to do, I'm going to give it a position of fixed. Now when we add this, you're going to see kind of migrates the text over. So the fact that we fixed it to the top, we also kind of need to fix the position left and right. So I'm going to give it a left position of 0 and a right position of 0, and that should realign it. Great. All right, so now we know that it's fixed. So these properties need to get put into the small class, right? So I'm going to go back here. I found small, and I'm going to add that to the very beginning here, right here. Okay, so that's great. So only when it's in a small state will the transition, will it stay fixed. So I'm going to prove that by going in here and going to ClearFix, adding a large class, doing this, and if we position it, actually it is fixed, period. So it's a good sign. So now our nav is fixed regardless. Even though we're kind of telling it the smaller one is fixed. Oh, that's because up here. Here we go. Forgot to remove this. Boom. Now that it's not. If it was small, then it will be, but if it's large, it will not be. So once again, let's kind of test that out here. And we'll go here. We'll add small. Now that it's small, you can clearly see that it's small. If we move the mouse, nothing. It stays fixed. If we do large and we scroll, it's not fixed anymore. So that's great. So we have our initial states. Now what we need to do is, one, I'm going to define the initial state in HTML. So when we land on this page, I want the class to be large. That's what I want it to see. And that's great. Okay, now we're going to jump into jQuery. And I've commented out the code here. Instead of writing it all from scratch, let's just review the code. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'll walk you through the code. So here we are using jQuery, the $, to connect to the actual document. We're adding an event, an on event, and basically it's on scroll. So when we scroll, we're going to kick off this anonymous function, and then we have an if statement. The if statement is going to determine whether we scrolled or not. So once again, we have to grab the document. We're going to use jQuery's scroll top method and determine if, in this instance, if we've scrolled greater than 50 pixels, do something. What is the something that we're going to do? We are going to go in here and grab the nav. We're going to remove the large class and then add the small class. Okay, if it's not greater than, a scroll top is not greater than. If it's less than 15, then we're going to do the opposite. We're going to grab, remove the small, and add the large class. So let's take a look. So now that I've done that, it takes effect immediately. So we were able to accomplish that change relatively easily with just a few lines of code. So this concludes part 3 on using jQuery and CSS transitions to animate our nav. Hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to demoing a few more of these. Thanks.